What if fear didn't need years to be defeated, not months, not even days, but vanished before this very message ends? What if every doubt, every hesitation, every invisible restraint that has ever gripped your potential could be torn away? Not managed, not rationalized, but erased completely? You were not born afraid. Fear was programmed into you, taught by those who had long abandoned their own power. But what is taught can be unlearned. What is installed can be removed before anything. Else you must understand this. Fear is not a natural law. It is not gravity or time. It is a fabrication of the human mind. And what the mind creates, it can also dismantle. I do not speak to soothe. I do not come with comfort or cliché. I stand before you with a spiritual provocation, one that, if embraced, has the power to alter the trajectory of your life forever. There is a silent killer among us. One so quiet, so cunning, it destroys dreams long before a man realizes he has surrendered. That killer is not poverty. It is not failure. It is fear. Fear has left more men broke than any economy ever has. Fear has buried more talent than any. War or prison, fear doesn't shout, it whispers. It masks itself as caution, as logic, as patience. But do not be deceived. Fear is the warden of potential, the thief of greatness, the executioner of dreams. I did not come here to entertain. I came with the conviction of a man who has walked beside giants: Carnegie, Ford, Schwab, Edison, Rockefeller. I've seen firsthand the single defining trait that separated them from those who lived and died in quiet regret. They refused to let fear dictate their steps. This is your spiritual decree. Today, you do not flirt with courage. You marry it. You do not negotiate with fear. You evict it. You do not wait for confidence. You act as if you already possess it. This is not advice. It is a rebirth. By the time this message is over, the man who stood to listen will not be the same man who walks away. Because today, fear becomes the servant, not the master. Fear doesn't charge in with banners. It creeps in with routine. It finds cracks in silence and builds homes in hesitation. It convinces you that the chains you wear are part of your skin. Fear is subtle. It doesn't strike like lightning. It drips into your life like a slow fog. You begin to forget what sunlight feels like. It hides behind harmless phrases. I'm just being cautious. I need more time. What if I fail? But those are not thoughts of wisdom. They are the voices of a man who's forgotten he commands his mind and now bows to it. The most powerful men in history were not fearless. They were masters of fear. When I sat before Andrew Carnegie for the first time, he did not talk of steel or wealth. He talked of thought. He said, "A man who does not rule his mind is no better than a wild horse, waiting to be broken." And in him, I saw something untouchable, definiteness of purpose. That is what fear seeks to dismantle, to scatter your energy, to fracture your focus, to delay your steps until the moment is lost. Fear doesn't just rob action, it robs identity. And if not confronted, it becomes who you are. A whisper becomes a habit becomes rhythm, a rhythm becomes identity. And soon, a nation of minds is conquered, not by bullets, but by thoughts left unchallenged. So I ask you, which fears have become your customs? The fear of loss, the fear of rejection, the fear of poverty, criticism, sickness, aging, or death. Name these 6 ghosts in Think and Grow Rich, because they haunt more souls than any misfortune ever could. And their most dangerous trait? They often wear the mask of intelligence. They disguise themselves as humility, as logic. Let me offer you a story. Henry Ford, he wasn't the most educated man, not by any measure. But he had a trait more valuable than any degree. He refused to let fear steer his choices. When he declared he would build a car for the common man, he was not applauded, he was laughed at. But he built it anyway. Why? because he did not consult. Fear. Ford knew what most never discover. Fear multiplies in silence, but courage multiplies in motion. Edison, after 10,000 failures, never gave fear the final word. He had decided his outcome in advance and repeated it until it became his truth. You must do the same. Where has fear built its home in your life? In your reluctance to speak, in your delay to pursue what you say matters most, in your quiet decision to live below your calling? Don't excuse it, don't rename it, call it what it is, face it, replace it, because fear does not leave the man who tolerates it. It leaves the man who rejects it. You cannot wish fear away. You conquer it by outgrowing it. You don't escape it, you confront it and realize it was only a ghost all along. Charles. Monsieur Schwab once told me, the world belongs not to the man who avoids mistakes, but to the man who moves forward despite them. That is where true power lives. Fear will scream, but your faith must speak louder. And faith does not come from inspiration. It is born from repetition. Repeat fear, and you live in fear. Repeat power, and you become its embodiment. So I offer you a challenge. Starting now, you will write down every fear that has ever paralyzed you. You will no longer let it hide behind clever excuses. You will call it what it is, a lie. And each morning you will speak its opposite with conviction. I do not fear failure. I execute. I do not fear rejection. I'm loyal to purpose, not applause. I do not fear lack. My wealth begins in thought and multiplies in action. I do not fear uncertainty. I define it. Say it until your spirit believes it. Say it until fear can no longer find a place to rest, because the man who is fearless is not the man who never felt fear, but the one who stood taller than it. And that is where mastery begins. Your subconscious does not argue. It does not reason. It simply responds to repetition soaked in belief. That is your greatest prison or your greatest liberation. So we move now from the battlefield of fear to the command center of your mind. If fear is the enemy, the subconscious is the terrain, and autosuggestion is your greatest weapon. You may not see it, but it governs every word you speak, every step you take, every outcome you attract. It never sleeps. It never questions. It simply reflects what it receives through emotion, repetition, and conviction. If you've lived in fear, in hesitation, in scarcity, it's not your fault. It's your programming. But the truth is revolutionary. You can reprogram the entire system. Take it from Ford. He didn't just say, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. He lived that creed. He repeated it, breathed it, and built empires from it. The world didn't follow his strength. It followed his belief. Belief is contagious, but only after it is installed. Autosuggestion is not wishful thinking. It is installing. Belief through intentional repetition. You don't hope for better thoughts. You install them with force, rhythm, and certainty. What do you say to yourself when no one's watching? That's your truth. If you say, I'm not ready, your mind believes you. If you say, I might fail, your subconscious prepares for it. But if you say, I am fearless, I act, I lead, your mind responds accordingly. So install the truth. Declare it daily. I am focused. I am powerful. I act without delay. My choices are final. My mission is crystal clear. I validate myself. Morning and night, before the world enters your thoughts and before sleep opens your subconscious, declare your identity. Not until you're tired, until you're changed. This is not for the timid. It's for the man ready to become unrecognizable, to rise from fear like fire from ashes, and shape his life like clay. When autosuggestion is mastered, hesitation becomes unnatural. Doubt is no longer a default. Certainty becomes your native tongue. If you want to become fearless, you must train the voice inside you until it becomes a roar. Faith is the root of all power. Not blind faith, but structural, practical faith, the kind you build brick by brick. The kind that bridges your thoughts to your reality, and that kind of faith, it is not given, it is earned, not in ease but in discipline, in clarity, in repetition. And so I leave you with this. Lay the foundation. Declare who you are. Live it, with such intensity that fear cannot breathe in your presence. And like the men I studied, like Carnegie, Edison, Schwab, you too will reshape the world that once tried to shape you. He began in a telegraph office, barely more than a boy, but what he carried even then was an unwavering sense of direction. Carnegie understood that his ascent wouldn't be immediate, but he believed, against all odds, that every minor task, every daily effort was preparing him for the moment when his definite purpose would collide with immense opportunity. And when that moment arrived, he didn't pause, he didn't flinch, he was ready. His belief had already paved the path. This is the power of purpose, a focused purpose. When you fix your eyes on a single destination and burn every other bridge, the very structure of the universe begins to reorganize around you. Doubt dies in the presence of unwavering focus. Fear cannot breathe inside the soul of a man who knows why he was born. Most men drift. Their aim changes with the weather. 1 week they chase freedom. The next they want comfort, the next applause. But the man of purpose, he does not drift. He is anchored like a compass needle, unchanging, unshaken. He wakes not to react, but to execute. Consider Abraham Lincoln. His presidency was forged in fire, division tearing the nation apart, allies uncertain, enemies rising. And yet Lincoln never let go of the mission. His aim was union. His trust was in liberty. He didn't know how long the conflict would rage, nor how costly it would become, but he decided early the Union would not break, slavery would not stand. And he lived in that decision, even when the odds screamed otherwise. That is the weight of purpose. It strengthens a man's spine in the storm. It gives him the courage to rise when others kneel, to speak when others go silent, to act when others wait for permission. And you must decide yours, not a bucket list, not a hope scribbled in excitement, but a burning sentence that becomes the center of your life. What will you build? Who will you become? What result will you refuse to leave incomplete? Write it, speak it, memorize it. Let it be the final word before you sleep and the first sound you release into the dawn. That's how Charles M. Schwab ascended in Carnegie's empire. He wasn't the most brilliant technician, but he was the most resolute, the most driven by purpose. While others paused, Schwab moved. He didn't dabble. He didn't shrink. He gave more than required. He led not by force, but by certainty, and that certainty infected every man under his leadership. You must generate that same force. Your belief cannot be quiet. It must be seen in your actions. You must persist when applause is absent, build when no one notices, advance when the scoreboard says you're losing. Because faith is not formed in comfort, it is forged in friction. It becomes real not through ease, but through repetition in adversity. When fear whispers in your ear, remember this: you cannot fake belief. You cannot perform your way to conviction. You must earn it through decisions made in solitude, through disciplines that demand precision, through language that reflects purpose even when the road ahead is unclear. Do this, and fear will become irrelevant. It may knock, but you won't answer. You'll be too busy executing. Understand this: indecision is the breeding ground of fear. Every hesitation you allow, every question you leave unanswered, every quiet maybe you whisper, becomes a crack. Where doubt seeps in, fear doesn't begin with failure. It begins with the refusal to choose. A man who cannot decide is a man who cannot ascend. He is a rudderless ship at the mercy of every wave, every opinion, every shift in the wind. His energy is scattered. His will is diluted. He waits, And while he waits, his future is stolen one day at a time. But the man who decides, firmly, finally, becomes something else entirely. Let me tell you about Henry Ford. When he set out to build a motorcar for the common man, he was mocked. His own engineers called his idea impossible. An 8-cylinder engine in one block. Can't be done, they said. Ford's reply, build it anyway. Not once, not twice, but every time they failed, he gave the same command. Build it anyway. That's not naive optimism. That's not blind belief. That's the raw power of decision, so unyielding that it bends the world to match it. And the engine, it was built, not by luck, but by command. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you decided with that kind of finality? Most men never do. They flirt with commitment. They try without cutting off retreat. They entertain their dream while secretly keeping an escape route open. And as long as that door remains, fear has a place to live. You must understand this. Decisiveness is not about always being right. It is about always being committed. A decision made with full belief will carry you further than 1,000 clever plans. Why? Because motion attracts momentum, and hesitation kills it. Let me speak plainly. The most successful men I studied, Ford, Edison, Carnegie, Schwab, they all shared one trait. When they decided, they moved. And when they moved, they never looked back. Edison failed over 10,000 times trying to invent the light bulb. But each failure was a choice to try again. 10,000 decisions to act in spite of uncertainty, and each one a wound against doubt. Edison didn't ask the world if it could be done. He decided, and he acted, until the world was forced to believe what he had already accepted. Decision is creation. It creates movement. It creates clarity. It creates identity. And here lies a spiritual truth. A man who decides who he is and lives accordingly becomes immune to fear. He may feel it, but it cannot lead him because he has already chosen, and that choice becomes a fortress. Charles Schwab again advanced not by endless debate, but by decisive movement. Carnegie trusted him not for technical brilliance, but for consistent execution. While others hesitated, Schwab acted. While others planned, he delivered. So I ask you, what decision have you left undone? What truth have you postponed? What version of yourself have you refused to fully become? Indecision is not harmless. It is the slow death of destiny. And fear uses it like a scalpel, cutting away at your future one hesitation at a time. Say this aloud now, wherever you are. I decide quickly. I move without apology. I do not retreat. My word is final because I trust the man who speaks it. Let these words carve themselves into your mind. Say them often, because each time you speak this identity, you erase the version of yourself that waited and build the one who leads. Let me be even more direct. Every time you hesitate, you teach your subconscious to doubt you. Every time you delay, you send this message. My will is not trustworthy. But every time you choose an act, you train your mind to believe. This man means what he says. And that is how self-command is built. From this moment on, you are no longer a man who waits. You are a man who chooses. Even when it's uncertain, even when it's uncomfortable, even when no one else does. You choose because you are the architect of your life, and the builder does not ask the bricks for permission. He lays them anyway, and the man who wishes to be fearless must understand. Fear is not an event. It is a habit. It's not a reaction to danger. It's a pattern formed through years of unchallenged thought. And like any habit, it can be rewired if you're willing to apply greater repetition in the direction of strength. So what does repetition mean? Not just mindless practice, but deliberate identity construction. Repeating not just actions, but posture, discipline, language, until the old patterns collapse under the weight of the new. I called this principle by many names: autosuggestion, definiteness of purpose, and most critically, thought control. But let me show you how it worked in the lives of the greatest men I studied. Andrew Carnegie, whose wisdom became the cornerstone of my life's work, was not born into wealth. He was born into struggle, into silence, into what the world would call lack. But he understood something few ever do. Once the mind is fixed upon a definite aim, it begins to attract everything needed for its fulfillment. So every morning he spoke that aim aloud. He declared the man he intended to become until the walls of his mind no longer allowed doubt to enter. Carnegie would say, "I am not building a fortune. I am building a man worthy of one." Do you see the difference? You don't repeat affirmations to feel good. You don't speak them to impress others. You speak them because your subconscious believes what it hears most. And so you must feed it power until fear is no longer an option. Now consider Edison. He once said, "I never failed. Once I merely found 10,000 ways that won't work." That wasn't clever marketing, that was a mental ritual. Edison didn't dwell on failure because he had rehearsed success so thoroughly that failure had nowhere to take root. He woke each day, regardless of yesterday, and stepped back into the lab with certainty. That is the habit of thought I am asking you to install. A belief so engraved into your being that fear can no longer find a home. Not because you don't feel it, but because your dominant thoughts do not allow it to grow. Let me give you the tool. Repetition. It is the hand that shapes the mind, not just of words, but of behavior, of posture, of unwavering discipline, until the old circuits snap and the new ones hold. I instructed my readers then, and I instruct you now. Begin each day with these 4 actions. A clear written statement of your definite aim, a vocal declaration of that aim filled with emotion, a vivid visualization of the man who has already achieved it, a silent vow. I do not flinch, I do not fold, I do not make room for fear. Done daily with faith and emotion, these rituals will rewire your subconscious. They will carve new roads in your thinking, and soon your thoughts will follow them by default. That is what happened to Henry Ford. He wasn't the most educated, he wasn't the most polished, but he had. When once asked how he would confront a challenge far beyond his expertise, he calmly replied, "I don't need to possess every answer. I can summon any mind, any expert required. The belief that a solution exists is already more than enough." Do you see what that truly means? He had already removed fear from the equation completely. Failure had no domain in his internal world. The unknown didn't frighten him. He simply assumed clarity would arrive, and it did, time after time. So, let me ask you, what rehearsals play in your mind when the world is silent, when no one is around to witness? What do you tell yourself in the privacy of your thoughts? Because if those words are saturated in doubt, you're scripting failure. If they echo fear, you're carving an identity built on hesitation. And if your inner language is chaotic, reactive, or careless, then your life will mirror it. So I urge you, take command of that inner dialogue, construct a script that reflects the man you are becoming, declare it boldly, daily, with intention. Say, "I remain calm in chaos. I stand firm under pressure. I choose with clarity in moments of doubt. I do not wait for the outcome. I shape it." Let these words form your inner armor, and if they feel foreign at first, good. That is proof. Transformation is occurring. Speak them until they become familiar. Speak them until they feel like home. Speak them until they are indistinguishable from you. Understand this. Your current fear didn't originate in this single moment. It was born from every unchallenged thought, every belief you never tested. But today that changes. From this day forward, you will speak with the resolve of a man who does not negotiate with fear. You will walk as one who commands his mind. You will rehearse power until power becomes your default. And fear, The old, withered fear. It will wither further, starved of your attention. Now let's move forward. Let's explore what happens when your entire internal system becomes built on this new foundation. Once a man begins reprogramming his thoughts through repetition, he must take the next vital step, perhaps even more crucial than the first. He must protect the environment in which his mind operates. Hear me clearly. No thought is safe in an unguarded atmosphere. Fear, like a quiet thief, enters unnoticed. And it often doesn't come from within. It comes cloaked in the words, doubts, and energies of others. I discovered this in my earliest conversations with Andrew Carnegie. He said to me, "If you place a fragile mind among stronger ones, it will either rise or it will shrink and decay. But if the strong minds are not united, confusion, not elevation, is the outcome." From that moment, I began to observe not just the habits of great men, but the mental ecosystems they cultivated. Take Henry Ford. Mocked and doubted for his belief in the mass-produced automobile, he was often asked, "How did you persist when even your own men began to doubt you?" His answer was telling. "I didn't invite them into my mind. Ford understood something you must now embrace. Your mind is sacred ground. Not every voice is entitled to enter." He surrounded himself with people who added value to the vision. And when doubt inevitably crept in, he didn't engage in debate. He retreated to solitude, to reflection. He didn't argue. He acted. Similarly, Thomas Edison, though collaborative by nature, was ruthless in selecting who entered his creative sanctuaries. No cynicism, no sarcasm, no mockery of dreams. He knew how sensitive the subconscious is, how easily one careless comment can dismantle hours of focus. You might fill your mind with affirmations every morning, but if you walk into an environment polluted with gossip, sarcasm, or apathy, you undo what you've built. Consider Charles M. Schwab, a man who led steel industries and commanded loyalty across empires. He once confided in me that a man's most important daily decision isn't what he will do, but who he will listen to. Schwab chose clarity over noise, belief over critique. If a man couldn't speak with conviction, Schwab simply wouldn't. Listen, so I ask you, who have you allowed to influence your subconscious? Whose voice echoes when fear rises? Is it yours, or is it a remnant of a parent's criticism, a failed friend's sarcasm, a teacher's low expectations? You must now become vigilant, not cruel, but discerning. Greatness demands mental discipline. Guard your mind as you would guard treasure. After all, your attention is your most valuable asset. Would you scatter gold coins on a busy street? Then why allow your mind to remain exposed? Some voices drain belief, others mask fear as logic, and call your ambition delusion. These are not mentors, they are saboteurs, and they must be removed from your mental proximity. Here's how. Audit your conversations. Who uplifts you? Who strengthens the identity you're building? Who sparks doubt, even subtly? Protect your silence. Begin each day in full command of your mind. Recite your affirmations. Seal your inner armor. Don't explain your mission. Explanation invites erosion. Speak only to those who will help you build it. To the rest, give silence. Each night return to your vision. Reconnect with your purpose. Review your day. Rebuild your belief. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. Remember Lincoln. Quiet, unshaken, firm. His stillness disturbed his critics. Why? Because it didn't stem from ego, but from internal clarity. This clarity is your goal now, and it begins with this realization. Your mind is a fortress, not a public hall. From now on, let this be your rule. If a voice doesn't sharpen your belief, it does not deserve access to it. Now say aloud, I allow no fear into my inner circle. My subconscious is sacred, and I protect it fiercely. My mental environment is pure, powerful, and aligned. Speak these truths daily. Let them become your new standard, not shields, but expectations. And when you live by these standards, fear suffocates. It loses its channels. It loses the chorus of voices that once weakened your resolve. Because now, your mind is clean. Now your belief is fortified. Now your focus is forged in steel, and your fortress, it cannot be breached. Shall we continue? When once asked how he would confront a challenge far beyond his expertise, he calmly replied, "I don't need to possess every answer. I can summon any mind, any expert required. The belief that a solution exists is already more than enough." Do you see what that truly means? He had already removed fear from the equation, completely. Failure had no domain in his internal world. The unknown didn't frighten him. He simply assumed clarity would arrive. And it did, time after time. So, let me ask you, what rehearsals play in your mind when the world is silent, when no one is around to witness? What do you tell yourself in the privacy of your thoughts? Because if those words are saturated in doubt, you're scripting failure. If they echo fear, you're carving an identity built on hesitation. And if your inner language is chaotic, reactive, or careless, then your life will mirror it. So I urge you, take command of that inner dialogue. Construct a script that reflects the man you are becoming. Declare it boldly, daily, with intention. Say, I remain calm in chaos. I stand firm under pressure. I choose with clarity in moments of doubt. I do not wait for the outcome. I shape it. Let these words form your inner armor, and if they feel foreign at first, good. That is proof. Transformation is occurring. Speak them until they become familiar. Speak them until they feel like home. Speak them until they are indistinguishable from you. Understand this. Your current fear didn't originate in this single moment. It was born from every unchallenged thought, every belief you never tested. But today, that changes. From this day forward, you will speak with the resolve of a man who does not negotiate with fear. You will walk as one who commands his mind. You will rehearse power until power becomes your default. And fear, the old withered fear, it will wither further, starved of your attention. Now let's move forward. Let's explore what happens when your entire internal system becomes built on this new foundation. Once a man begins reprogramming his thoughts through repetition, he must take the next vital step, perhaps even more crucial than the first. He must protect the environment in which his mind operates. Hear me clearly. No thought is safe in an unguarded atmosphere. Fear, like a quiet thief, enters unnoticed. And it often doesn't come from within. It comes cloaked in the words, doubts, and energies of others. I discovered this in my earliest conversations with Andrew Carnegie. He said to me, "If you place a fragile mind among stronger ones, it will either rise or it will shrink and decay. But if the strong minds are not united, confusion, not elevation, is the outcome." From that moment, I began to observe not just the habits of great men, but the mental ecosystems they cultivated. Take Henry Ford. Mocked and doubted for his belief in the mass-produced automobile, he was often asked, "How did you persist when even your own men began to doubt you?" His answer was telling. "I didn't invite them into my mind." Ford understood something you must now embrace. Your mind is sacred ground. Not every voice is entitled to enter. He surrounded himself with people who added value to the vision. And when doubt inevitably crept in, he didn't engage in debate. He retreated to solitude, to reflection. He didn't argue. He acted. Similarly, Thomas Edison, though collaborative by nature, was ruthless in selecting who entered his creative sanctuaries. No cynicism, no sarcasm, no mockery of dreams. He knew how sensitive the subconscious is, how easily one careless comment can dismantle hours of focus. You might fill your mind with affirmations every morning, but if you walk into an environment polluted with gossip, sarcasm, or apathy, you Undo what you've built. Consider Charles M. Schwab, a man who led steel industries and commanded loyalty across empires. He once confided in me that a man's most important daily decision isn't what he will do, but who he will listen to. Schwab chose clarity over noise, belief over critique. If a man couldn't speak with conviction, Schwab simply wouldn't. Listen. So I ask you, who have you allowed to influence your subconscious? Whose voice echoes when fear rises? Is it yours, or is it a remnant of a parent's criticism, a failed friend's sarcasm, a teacher's low expectations? You must now become vigilant, not cruel, but discerning. Greatness demands mental discipline. Guard your mind as you would guard treasure. After all, your attention is your most valuable asset. Would you scatter gold coins on a busy street? Then why allow your mind to remain exposed? Some voices drain belief, others mask fear as logic, and call your ambition delusion. These are not mentors, they are saboteurs, and they must be removed from your mental proximity. Here's how. Audit your conversations. Who uplifts you? Who strengthens the identity you're building? Who sparks doubt, even subtly? Protect your silence. Begin each day in full command of your mind. Recite your affirmations. Seal your inner armor. Don't explain your mission. Explanation invites erosion. Speak only to those who will help you build it. To the rest, give silence. Each night, return to your vision. Reconnect with your purpose. Review your day. Rebuild your belief. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. Remember Lincoln, quiet, unshaken, firm. His stillness disturbed his critics. Why? Because it didn't stem from ego, but from internal clarity. This clarity is your goal now, and it begins with this realization. Your mind is a fortress, not a public hall. From now on, let this be your rule. If a voice doesn't sharpen your belief, it does not deserve access to it. Now, say aloud, I allow no fear into my inner circle. My subconscious is sacred, and I protect it fiercely. My mental environment is pure, powerful, and aligned. Speak these truths daily. Let them become your new standard, not shields but expectations. And when you live by these standards, fear suffocates. It loses its channels. It loses the chorus of voices that once weakened your resolve. Because now, your mind is clean. Now your belief is fortified. Now your focus is forged in steel, and your fortress, it cannot be breached. You've protected your inner world. You've established your fortress. But now comes the test that separates those who merely believe from those who become movement. Because clarity without action is only potential, and potential, when left untouched, decays into regret. That's the final frontier of fear, not doubt, not weakness, but inertia. Fear hides in hesitation. It wears the mask of caution. It tells you to wait a little longer, to gather more information, to feel ready first. But here's the truth. Readiness is not a requirement, it's a consequence. Every master you admire, every leader, innovator, world changer stepped forward before they felt ready. They didn't wait for fear to vanish. They moved while it still echoed in the background, because they understood something that most never grasp. You don't escape fear by outthinking it. You dissolve it by outpacing it. Movement creates momentum, and momentum makes fear irrelevant, not because the fear disappears, but because you do. The version of you who hesitated, who analyzed, who overthought, he gets left behind. Every step forward is a burial of that former self. You see, fear needs your stillness to survive. It feeds on your pause. It thrives in analysis. But the moment you move, truly move, decisively, consistently, unapologetically, fear begins to lose oxygen, and soon it suffocates in your wake. So the real question isn't, what if I fail? It's, what happens if I keep standing? Still, Because the world doesn't pause while you think. Time doesn't negotiate. Opportunity doesn't knock forever. Life rewards the man who acts, not the one who waits to feel worthy of acting. And you might say, but what if I move in the wrong direction? Good, because wrong movement is better than none. Action sharpens your aim. Forward motion reveals. False paths faster than thought ever will. You stumble, you learn, you adjust, and that process builds an inner compass far more accurate than hesitation ever could. You must become allergic to passivity. You must train your nervous system to associate stillness with loss. Because inactivity is a decision, and it is almost always the wrong one. Let me remind you of something Edison once told me. Most men fail not because they were wrong, but because they were still. He said this after failing over 9,000 times to create the electric light, yet he moved. Every failure was fuel, every setback became instruction. He didn't fear the misstep. He feared stagnation, and I'll never forget a night spent with a young Theodore Roosevelt before he became president. He was just a man then, uncertain, grieving, bruised by loss. And yet, when I asked him what kept him going, he said, "If I remain in this pain, I become it. But if I ride, if I fight, if I move, then I redefine myself faster than grief can hold me." That's the mindset you must adopt. Don't wait for your emotion to give you permission. Move, and let your movement command your emotion. Let's get practical now. Make this your creed. No day ends without forward motion. Every single day, take at least one bold, uncomfortable, decisive action that pushes you closer to the man you are becoming. Write it, record it, revisit it. Track it like a warrior tracks the stars, because these daily moves are your map out of fear. And when resistance rises, and it will, don't argue with it. Don't wrestle with it. Outpace it. Move anyway. Discipline is doing what must be done, especially when you don't feel like it. And the more you act in defiance of fear, the less credible it becomes. Eventually, it becomes background noise. A ghost, a whisper you can barely hear. You must become a man of kinetic faith, not someone who merely believes, but someone who embodies belief through action. The kind of faith that walks into the fire, not to prove something to others, but to prove to yourself that you are no longer negotiable. Let your movement be aggressive, even when your heart trembles. Let it be consistent, even when your mind resists. Because movement doesn't lie. It reveals your commitment. It announces your intent. It creates friction, yes, but it also creates transformation. No man becomes great by standing still. So start now, not tomorrow. Not when it's easier. Not when the fear subsides. Now, open the email. Make the call. Build the plan. Launch the offer. Ask the question. Burn the bridge behind you if it keeps dragging you into hesitation. Make the move, and let the man you are becoming catch up to your own boldness. You've built the mindset. You've chosen the environment. Now it's time to cement the identity. And identity, my friend, is not spoken. It is moved into. Now that you've moved, now that inertia has been shattered and your feet have touched the battlefield, there is one more threshold every man must cross. Consistency. Not the kind of consistency they sell in productivity books. Not color-coded calendars and neatly scheduled habits. I'm talking about a relentless inner contract. A non-negotiable standard that lives in your bones and bleeds into your days, whether you feel like it or not, because greatness is not built in a burst. It is carved through sacred repetition, through the mundane, through the unnoticed, uncelebrated, thankless actions, repeated when no one's watching and nothing seems to be changing. You must become the man who shows up anyway, when the excitement fades, when the adrenaline dries, when the applause quiets down, because this is the desert where most men disappear. They start strong, they roar at the beginning, but their fire was fueled by emotion, not commitment. Emotion fades. Commitment doesn't. You need to understand, every day you show up, you are not just doing the thing, you are casting votes for the man you are becoming. Each action is a brick in the architecture of your identity. Miss enough days, and that identity begins to fracture. But stack those bricks daily, rain or shine, passion or pain, and soon you'll be living inside a fortress no storm can shake. This is how you build unbreakable self-respect. By keeping the promises you whisper to yourself when no one else can hear them. Discipline at its core is self-trust in motion, and if you're still relying on motivation, you're already losing. Motivation is a liar, it's weather, it changes with the wind. It cannot be trusted to build anything that lasts. But discipline is the anchor, the daily yes that echoes into eternity. And I know it's not sexy, it's not flashy, it's not the kind of thing you can post about, but discipline is what separates men who almost become from men who actually do. Let me tell you something I once learned from a forgotten Navy diver. I asked him how he stayed consistent after 20 years of grueling training. You know what he said? You learn to stop negotiating with weakness. That's it. That's the difference. Weak men negotiate. They debate with their excuses. They wait for the mood to be right, the timing to feel perfect. Strong men, they decide once, then they stop asking questions. You must become that man. Set the standard. And then submit to it. Don't argue with it. Don't tweak it. Don't water it down on hard days. That standard is your altar. Bow to it daily, and don't confuse this for rigidity. True discipline isn't cold, it's reverent. It's the deep, almost spiritual knowing that this consistency isn't killing your freedom, it's birthing it. Because when you know what your day demands, when your non-negotiables are etched into your calendar like scripture, when your soul is tethered to purpose rather than feelings, you become dangerous. Predictable, not in laziness, but in excellence. And people will start to notice, not because you told them, but because your presence will begin to speak for you. There's something unmistakable about a man who is dependable in a world addicted to chaos. He becomes a lighthouse, quiet, steady, unshakable, but be warned. The world will tempt you with alternatives. It will whisper, "You've done enough." It will praise half efforts. It will offer comfort in exchange for your crown. And in those moments, you must return to your creed. I do not flinch. I do not skip. I do not shrink, even when it's invisible, even when it feels thankless. Because consistency, done long enough, doesn't just create outcomes. It creates gravity. Eventually, your name becomes synonymous with excellence. People won't just trust your word. They'll trust your rhythm. So track your days, stack your wins, build streaks that scare your former self. And when the voice in your head says, "Does this even matter?" you remind it. Everything matters. Every rep, every word, every hour protected, every night you say no to distraction. Every dawn you rise before the sun has a chance to doubt you. And when your body aches, when your will feels hollow, when no one is clapping and nothing seems to change, keep going anyway. Because consistency isn't about results. It's about becoming. It's about forging a man so relentless, so rooted, that even silence becomes sacred ground. You are not just trying to win today. You are building the kind of man who never has to recover, because he never quits. Too many men wait for permission. They delay their calling until their neighbor approves of it. They shrink their voice to fit the comfort zones of small minds, forfeiting their divine assignment for applause that means nothing. They become experts at one thing, editing their own greatness to avoid discomfort. But I must speak plainly to you now. You cannot live a bold life and stay safe in the crowd. These two paths do not intersect. There is no applause in the wilderness, no fanfare on the path of destiny. You must become willing to walk alone, misunderstood, doubted, even mocked, until the very vision they laughed at becomes the standard they cannot ignore. Because here is the truth. The crowd is not your compass. The crowd does not know your calling. They cannot see your blueprint, and the longer you tether your decisions to their opinions, the further you drift from the man you were designed to be. Let this penetrate deep. A man ruled by the opinions of others will never rule himself, and you were not born to bow to whispers. You were born to declare, to create, to shape the world, not to be shaped by it. And yet every time you hesitate because someone might disapprove, every time you edit your passion to sound more reasonable, every time you second-guess a conviction to fit into a room you've already outgrown, you surrender more of your soul to silence. But the man you are becoming must rise with a new law. I will no longer be molded by minds that do not carry my burden. You see, the world is full of critics. It always has been. The small man finds joy in tearing down what he cannot build. But the giant, he's too busy constructing legacy to waste time explaining himself to the insecure. You don't need to be liked, you need to be aligned, because here's the brutal truth. If you continue living for their approval, you will never hear your own voice clearly. And if you never hear your own voice, you'll spend a lifetime achieving what others expect of you, and die having never met the man you were meant to be. So I ask you again, not softly, but with urgency, whose voice is guiding your decisions? If it is not yours, if it is not anchored in your purpose, it is an imposter. And every day you let it lead, your potential atrophies. Slowly, quietly, tragically. But here is the liberation. The moment you sever your need for their approval is the moment you become unstoppable. You begin to move, not with arrogance, but with certainty. You speak not to please, but to proclaim. You build, not to be admired, but to fulfill the fire within. And people will feel it. Your presence will shift the atmosphere, not because you shouted, but because you no longer bent. Let this be your vow. I will not delay my life to earn a stranger's applause. I will not pause my destiny to accommodate comfort. I will walk forward, even if I walk alone. Because the man who walks alone for a while will eventually walk ahead of many. They may not understand you. That's fine. They're not supposed to. Your path was not assigned to the collective. It was carved uniquely for your feet. So walk it, firmly, faithfully, and without apology. You must internalize this. If the voice within you grows stronger than the noise around you, no force on earth can stop you. And yes, it takes courage. Yes, you will be criticized. Yes, people will question you, but let them. Their doubt is not your burden. Their confusion is not your concern. Your only responsibility is to remain faithful to the mission that was whispered into your spirit when no one else was watching. That's sacred. Whisper? That was God. That was legacy. That was destiny breaking through the fog. So speak now, not to impress them, but to awaken you. Declare now, not for their validation, but for your liberation. Move now, not to fit in, but to stand out as a beacon. For those still trapped in hesitation, and when the world scoffs, when they call you arrogant, delusional, unrealistic, remember, the crowd has never built a monument. History was never changed by the agreeable. The world does not bend for the polite. It bends for the man who refuses to bow to it. You must become that man. No more apologies for your fire. No more dilution of your message. No more delay waiting for applause that will never come. You know what must be done. So do it. Not tomorrow. Not when it feels convenient. Now. Move with certainty. Speak with clarity. Walk with conviction, and let every step be a reminder. I am no longer available for the opinions of those who do not carry my vision. This is your emancipation from the chains of external validation. And once you taste that, freedom, once you stand in the power of your own voice, you will never go back to silence again. Now, shall we keep climbing? Shall we step into the next realm where the deepest transformation begins, not in the eyes of others, but in the secret chambers of the spirit? Then let us continue. They trade their birthright for belonging, silencing the voice within, just to be accepted by those who barely understand themselves. But mark this truth. No man who ever shaped history was welcomed by it first. Did Abraham Lincoln wait for applause before signing the Emancipation Proclamation? No. He was ridiculed, condemned, even despised. Yet he pressed forward, not because it was popular, but because it was just. Did Thomas Edison conduct a survey before chasing his vision? He was called mad, a failure, a dreamer. Still, he ignored the noise because he wasn't looking to the crowd for direction. He was listening to something far deeper. And when the world mocked Henry Ford for imagining a machine that could replace a horse, he trusted his vision more than he feared their laughter. That is the measure of a man who does not consult the unbuilt opinions of idle people before taking his next step. A man who builds without needing applause, who moves not to please, but to fulfill what was placed inside him. Understand this. The crowd will never understand you. That's not their assignment. Their job is to watch. Your job is to build. And the moment you confuse the two, when you allow the opinions of spectators to dictate the actions of a creator, you surrender your power. Let me tell you something most won't. The people whose opinions you fear are rarely thinking of you at all. They are too busy battling their own shadows, tangled in doubt, distracted by fear. Yet those are the voices you let steer your path. No more. From this moment forward, create distance, not from hatred, but from clarity. You are not here to be understood. You are here to become undeniable. Statues are not built for critics. History is not written by cynics, and legacies are not carved by gossips. They are shaped by the one who builds without begging for recognition, the one who moves in silence, the one who walks with conviction. Say this until it rewires your mind. Their opinions are not my instructions. Their doubts are not my map. Their approval is not my requirement. Only my commitment. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. And when a man aligns with purpose, the voices that once held him hostage begin to fade into background noise. They lose their grip because he's found something louder, the truth within. There is no faster way to kill fear than to stop living for the approval of the fearful. So when they mock you, build. When they doubt you, stay silent. When they ask, "Who do you think you are?" respond with action. You are the man who leads himself. You are the man who walks without apology. You are the man who has burned the bridge to external validation. Say it aloud. I do not live for their applause. I live for my purpose. I do not wait for permission. I move with decision. I do not fear the crowd. The crowd fears my clarity. Let this be your armor. Let this be your sword. Because the man who fears opinion forfeits destiny, but the one who slays that fear moves with a presence so powerful, he silences rooms without a word. Now let us speak of a force more potent than logic, stronger than strength, deeper than talent, a force that raises empires from dust and steadies the builder when the winds of failure roar. That force is faith. Not the diluted faith sold by wishful thinking, not blind optimism, real faith, forged in repetition, built through discipline, installed by speaking belief before the results arrive. Faith is a weapon, not a feeling. It slays. Fear not with emotion, but with certainty. Understand this. Fear cannot survive where faith is alive. But true faith, real, unshakable faith, does not crumble under pressure. If it bends, it was never faith, only illusion. How do you forge real faith? Through consistent action, through emotional repetition, by feeding your mind until it forgets how to fear. Every morning you must speak your identity. Every night you must rehearse the man you are becoming. And every time fear whispers, you must interrupt it with truth. Edison, after thousands of failed attempts at inventing the light bulb, was asked if he felt he'd wasted his time. He replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." He didn't see failure. He saw steps toward a vision he had already accepted as real. Live like that. Don't wait to see it, to believe it. Believe it until the world sees it. Henry Ford once said, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." That's not clever wordplay. It's a law. What a man accepts in his subconscious becomes fact in his world. So ask yourself, what am I repeating? What am I rehearsing when no one is watching? That is where faith is born, in solitude, in the early hours. When your words echo back at you and slowly become your nature, this is not mysticism. It is psychological law. It is how identity is created. Every great man I've studied, from Andrew Carnegie to modern visionaries, used this law. They didn't hope for strength. They installed it. Daily, say it again. I believe in my purpose even before it shows. I feed my mind with strength until weakness forgets my name. I move in faith, not because I'm ready, but because I've chosen. Repetition is the mother of identity, and identity governs action. When fear creeps in, and it will, you don't negotiate. You return to the script. You repeat your truth, until your truth becomes your nature. And now we reach a final pillar, decision. Fear thrives in hesitation. It draws power from indecision, from the fog of maybe. The longer you delay, the more it grows. But make a decision, fully, finally, without apology, and fear dies instantly. Drift begins where decision ends. It is the slow rot of potential, the passive surrender of destiny. Every man I've studied had this one trait: decisiveness, not recklessness, not speed, clarity. When Ford wanted an 8-cylinder engine and was told it was impossible, he said, "Build it anyway." His decision left no room for retreat. Charles Schwab wasn't a technical genius, but Carnegie trusted him to lead his empire. Because Schwab decided, while others hesitated. You must do the same. A man who drifts is not free. He's a leaf in the wind, a puppet of opinion. But a man who decides becomes unstoppable. Say it aloud. I decide quickly. I change slowly. I do, not drift. I act with finality. I burn the bridge behind me, not for drama, but for discipline. Once you remove the exit, your only path is forward. And forward is where greatness lives. Let this sink in deeply. Fear cannot dominate a man who has made up his mind. It may knock. It may whisper, but it cannot enter because the gate has been locked by decision. You must return to this clarity daily. Recommit to your purpose. Override emotion with decision. Say it again. I do not retreat. I do not negotiate with fear. I move because I've already chosen. And now, as we close this message, understand this. Fear is no longer welcome. It has stolen enough from you, hesitated your dreams, questioned your value, delayed your rise. But that era ends today. You are not average. You are not another man drifting through life waiting for strength. You are building it with every word, with every step, with every quiet moment when no one else sees but heaven does. Let the old voice die, the one that doubted, that delayed, that waited, and let the new voice rise. The one that walks with clarity, that moves with fire, that repeats strength until it becomes instinct. This message is not motivation. It's your new standard. It's your blueprint. So return to it daily. Play it again. Speak it again. Let it become your rhythm until fear doesn't just quiet down. It disappears. And when you move from that place, the world won't just hear you. It will feel you. Now go. Walk with fire, lead with discipline, move like the man fear cannot touch, because that man is already you. And if this message spoke to something in you, if it reminded you of who you truly are, let it live beyond this moment. Drop a comment, share it with the brother still searching for his strength. Subscribe, not just to this channel, but to the man you're becoming. This is not the end. It's the ignition. Let the fire begin.